Hi, I'm Don Blackwell. I'm the Executive Director of the Gospel Broadcasting Network. Welcome to this episode of Truth on Wheels. About once a month, I do an episode on Truth on Wheels called a coping episode. And today's episode is going to be one of those. I have a special guest with me today, a man that has a special place in my heart, and this is Brother Eddy Gilpin. Brother Eddy, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Glad to have you with us today. This program is a little bit unusual because it's going to be a personal program. Many of you are familiar with my story, and that is it started when I flipped a four-wheeler on May the 6th of 2019, and I spent the next 3 months in the hospital. The end result is that I am a T6 complete paraplegic. I've told my story many times in an effort to help other people. And if you're watching this for the first time, we're going to put a link down below so that you can watch the entire story. But I've told my story over and over again. I've told it to the best of my ability. But a good portion of the story, I was actually unconscious during it. And so I have to rely on other people to fill in the gaps for me. There were only 3 other people who were there at the time of the accident, and that was my wife and Eddy and Jeannie Gilpin. And so I have asked Eddy if he would come on the program today and talk to me about the day that the accident occurred. And so I'm going to be asking him questions for the very first time. We haven't rehearsed this, and so please bear with us as we go through this today. To set the stage, it was May the 6th, 2019, and we had had a great day together. We had eaten together, and then we were going to ride four-wheelers and enjoy it before we went back to the gospel meeting that evening. And Eddy and Jeannie were on a four-wheeler ahead of us, and my wife Sherry and I were on a four-wheeler, and we were following them and having a good time. We were coming down the hill, and that's about the point that I go blank. And I remember nothing after that until I woke up a day or two later in the hospital. And so, Eddy, I'm going to ask you some questions, if you don't mind, to kind of help me fill in the gaps. And I thank you for doing this. I know that this is awkward. It's going to be a difficult things to talk about. I have tried and tried to remember the events of that day, and I just can't seem to. Every now and then I have a little glimpse of something, and I think I remember that, but I'm not even sure. Our minds have a way of creating memories. And so I want to ask you a series of questions, and if you feel uncomfortable and don't want to answer something, that's okay. You were ahead of us on the four-wheeler. How did you first realize something was wrong? Was it the sound? Is that what happened?
We had gone down the hill, like you said. We were on the smaller one. You all had chosen the bigger one because it had a backrest on it for Sherry's back problem that she was having then. And so we went to the bottom of the hill and stopped. And just as I stopped, I heard Jeannie scream. She was behind me. And when I turned around, then I saw you rolling and the four-wheeler rolling. And that's what I saw. It took one last turn on its side.
Wow.
So that was the indication. Then, of course, after she screamed, I heard the noise that the machine actually made when it hit the ground.
So you turned around as I was still flipping.
You were rolling. You were about to stop rolling. So I didn't know really how you had flown off. It was just you were rolling.
Okay. Was I still on it at the time?
No.
Okay. So it had thrown me off.
It had thrown both of you off.
Okay. And I've told the story that I kind of doubled over. Do you know about that? Was I on the ground when you turned around?
You were.
Okay. And Sherry was on the ground somewhere else? Yeah. And the four-wheeler was still going. Right. Did it catch on fire?
No. It was still running. And
okay.
So it was, I didn't know which way to go. Do I turn this off to keep anything else from happening? So we kind of did both of them and went to you. Sherry was conscious, but you weren't.
Okay. So did you come to me first? Is that what happened?
I did.
Okay. And I was unconscious.
You were unconscious.
Wow. Okay. And then did you go to Sherry? Did Jeannie go to Sherry?
Jeannie went to Sherry. I went to you. And then I said, I need to turn this machine over. So I turned it over and turned it off. And that's when I told Jeannie, I said, Don's unconscious. You need to go get help. Okay. She saw that Sherry said, I'm fine. She was conscious. She felt that her back was broken, and she had her back to us. And she just continued to lay on her side with her back to us. And then I went back to you and tried to do what I could. To tell you the truth, I thought you were dead. Yeah.
Okay. Didn't seem to be breathing, or?
No, I couldn't really tell that you were. And we're trying to revive you, calling your name, slapping your face, trying to get you to come to. Finally, you did.
A lot of people have wanted to slap my face.
Well, I've accomplished the task.
How far apart were me and Sherry?
Sherry had gone, it looked like she had been thrown in front. She was probably 15 feet, maybe 20 from you. Okay. The machine was actually to her back and to your feet. So she was in this position, you were here, and the machine over here.
Okay. And so you sent Jeannie to call for help.
Right.
How long did it take the ambulance to get there?
It took a good while. We didn't have phone service at the time, internet service, and so she had to go to the neighbor's house, which she rode over on the four-wheeler to do.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, and so the thing about that, when they call 911 from that location, that's where they sent everybody, to that location instead of us, and so they had to guide them to us, helicopter included. And so it seemed like forever, but in retrospect, it was probably quicker than I thought it was, and really amazing that they got there as quickly as they did, because they sent police, fire truck, ambulance, everybody.
What happened during the time that you were waiting for them to arrive?
Well, you came to, and you said, I can't breathe. I've got to sit up. I can't feel my legs. And I said, well, I can't sit you up, because if I do, if you've got damage that you're not feeling your legs, then that's probably going to add to that. And you said, well, I've got to have some relief. And so I put my hand under your head, and that gave you enough relief that you were able to get your breath. So it was pretty scary.
Wow, that just brings a flood of emotion to me. I kind of sort of think I can remember that. I kind of sort of think I remember talking to you then. So the ambulance arrived first, right? And then they had to send for a helicopter.
Right. Fire truck, ambulance, police. I'm not really sure the order they got there now, but it was just a blur. But they all pretty much got there together. It's a country road, winding road, and so I'm sure the police were clearing the way, sheriff or whatever it was.
Now, the way I understood it was the ambulance got there and determined they couldn't handle it and sent for a helicopter. Is that accurate?
Probably case.
Okay. Was I awake when they put me on the chopper?
Well, see, the helicopter tried to land in the field adjoining the neighbor's property, because that's where the call had been placed from. So they finally got communication to them. And the thing about it, there was a field where you were, but there was another field in front of our house, and the helicopter landed there. They put you on the ambulance, and then from the ambulance, offloaded you onto the helicopter. That was pretty, I thought, something that should have been done directly, but so yeah, you were conscious when they put you on the helicopter.
See, I remember none of that. That is so strange to think I was conscious. I thought maybe they knocked me out or something, but
as far as I know, you were when they put you on the ambulance.
Okay. Did I have visible injuries at the time that you could see?
There was just a cut or a scrape on your head, and that was it. And I thought, it hadn't bruised up at the time. Later it probably did, but nothing was bleeding except that. It was just minor cut.
Now, I was there for a gospel meeting, and this was Monday, and so obviously I didn't preach that night. They paid me anyway, but I guess I owe them a gospel meeting still. But what happened with the gospel meeting?
On Monday night, I'm not sure if somebody spoke. I'm not sure who they did, because I stayed with you. I stayed with you in the room. Sherry was a few floors down, and Jeannie stayed with her, because your family was coming from the Memphis area. Yeah. So I stayed with you. She stayed with her. I'm not sure, because I was with you.
Did the meeting go on? Did they cancel it?
I don't remember, to tell you the truth. I don't know.
Okay. How did you get in touch with my family?
I called Lori White.
My secretary.
Right, your secretary. We're good friends, and so I called her when I followed the ambulance out. I had to get past our road, our country road. There was no reception at the time, so I had to get to a main road, and I called her. And I said, I don't know what to do. Here's what's happened. I don't know any of the family members. And she gave me Cletus's number, your brother. Yeah. So she said, he's a great guy. Said, call him. And that's how we got the ball rolling.
How long did it take the family to get there?
All night. They had scheduled you for surgery, if I remember, at 7 o'clock.
On that Monday?
On the Tuesday morning.
Okay, so it was 7 o'clock Tuesday morning?
Right.
Okay.
And so they got into the room actually about 15 minutes before 7. Okay. And so I was in conversation with them through Cletus all night. They would call and I would let them know any update, just anything, that they would come in and say, and the doctor came in with x-rays and that kind of thing. So I kind of kept them updated.
Do you know when I woke up? Was that on Tuesday or was it Wednesday?
You were awake all night on Monday night.
I was awake all night Monday night.
You would doze off, and you would always ask me the same question when you woke up, what time is it?
Huh.
And it would be, it was fitful, but you would doze for a couple of minutes at a time.
And you stayed with me the whole time, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
I want to leave.
I love you for it.
Well, you would have done the same for me. I know you would have.
After the surgery, when did I wake up from that? Was that Tuesday?
It was Tuesday.
Okay.
During the night, I'll add this: the doctor came in with your X-rays, and he said, "Don, I have your X-rays. Do you want to look at them, or do you want me to show them to Eddie?" And you said, "Just show them to him."
Wow, I have no memory of any of that.
And he showed me the X-ray, and your backbone, of course, is lined this way, and where you had suffered the damage, it was like this. I mean, it was very obvious, even to someone without medical training.
Yeah. And
I asked him the question. I said, "Will he walk again?" And he said, "Not by my hand." And that got to be pretty emotional. A wave of a number of things came upon me, but I thought, man. But I mean, you were stoic throughout it. You were obviously in a lot of pain, especially in your neck, and you kept saying that. We kept trying to tell them, and they said they were giving you all they could. The doctor came in and said, "You ask him about it," and he said, "I can give you something that will take away the pain, but you will be addicted." And you said, "No, I don't want that."
Huh. Wow.
So I admired you even more for that because you had the wherewithal to say that. So
it seemed like it was a while before they could figure out the neck, because I kept telling them, my neck is hurting me. They put the brace on me. Finally, before I left the Shepherd Center, they came back and they said, your C1 vertebrae is cracked. And the doctors since then have been wanting to do a surgery to screw my C1 to my head, but they said I would not be able to turn my head. And I said, no. And they said, well, you're very precarious. If something hits you hard, it could kill you. And I said, well, I'll be ready to be with the Lord.
Question for you, do you still have pain in you?
Oh, yes, yeah. I have to, at night, I bought a pillow that has a hole in the middle so that, because I can't lay on my ear, the pain is too bad. And so that helps, but I still, flipping over at night is really hard. It's a big process. And so if I get up, it takes me several minutes of rolling pillows around and rolling my body over. So I generally only flip once in the night, and then I have to flip over. The pain is worse on this side because that's where most of the damage is. So I have a lot of pain in the neck and the head, and I guess it'll always be that way. But I've learned to manage it. I remember when I woke up, the first thing I remember, I have glimpses every now and then of thinking that I remember you saying, me saying, I can't breathe. but I can't remember if I was just told that and think I remember it, if I actually do. But the first thing I remember, going down the mountain or down the hill, when I got to the end, the next thing I remember is the doctor waking me up after the surgery. And that's when I realized that I couldn't move my legs. It's the first thought that I have. And then I remember that, excuse me, I remember they took me back to the room, and my brother came in, and he had come from out of town. People are just going to have to see me wipe my nose here. So my brother came in from out of town, and he walked in the room, and I said, trying to think of the words exactly, I said, I've been laying here thinking about handicap jokes, but I can't tell them because they're too lame. And he rolled his eyes and said, well, you haven't changed. And we laughed, and we went on. And I've tried to approach it not in a callous way, but it is what it is, and you have to make the best out of it. And I felt blessed, feel so blessed that I remember laying in the hospital worried that I wouldn't be able to preach. Will I be able to talk? One of my hands I'd kind of lost feeling in, and the doctor said, I think you'll get that back, and I did. So I'm able to type, I'm able to speak, my mind still works as well as it ever did, and so I can preach. I've got this chair that stands me up. Brethren helped buy me a van that I can drive and travel by myself, and I think it's been the providence of God, and so I feel exceedingly blessed. I've been able to help a lot of people. I think there have been some conversions that would not have happened had it not been for this. And so I think when I reach the end of my life, I'll probably look back and think, I might have done more good as a result. And when you get to the end, what's going to matter is, what did I do in the Lord's service? And so it's made me think about things like that more. And I've changed my perspective.
You get back to the original question you asked me. I don't think we were through the night. We were looking for the 7 o'clock hour. That's what we're waiting on, because you were in so much pain.
The 7 o'clock surgery in the morning?
Right, in the morning.
Okay.
And so you'd wake up, what time is it? And I'd tell you. And because we were both thinking that would help alleviate the pain. And then when you came back from the surgery, it had not. And so you were awake when you came back from the surgery, and the pain was still there. Yeah. So it was really...
I can remember that my neck was hurting me, and they put that brace on me, and it hurt so bad, and I kept taking it off, and they said, the brace is not hurting you, the brace is right. And I argued with them, and I went to the Shepherd Center, and they put this neck brace on me, and it hurt me so badly. And every time they would leave, I'd take the brace off, and they would come in and they would fuss at me. But I thought, you don't know the pain that this is causing. I did. I was blaming it on the brace. I didn't know the nerve damage and the cracked vertebrae and for a while. But you said the family arrived before the surgery. How long was the surgery? Do you remember?
It took all morning. It was, I don't recall exactly, but it seems like it was early afternoon when they brought you back in. It might not have been. But
when did you see me first after the surgery?
When they brought you back in your room.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And I was awake? Mm-hmm. Okay. What was the reaction of the congregation?
Well, I wasn't there to know the initial reaction. After I called Lori and called Cletus, and I called one of our elders, told him what had happened. And I said, I'm going to be with him, so, you guys just do whatever you need to do. As far as I remember, they assembled that night because it was really too late to call things off, and then gave the news to everybody. But the congregation, after that point, everybody just jumped in. They were helping with food, place to stay for your family members, they were just really good about providing everything that was needed. It was like, Don needs this, we'll get it, you know. And
They took care of everything I needed, and the reaction of the brotherhood was overwhelming. Money was raised to help pay the medical bills, which were really high. I think I had over $1 million of medical bills when it was all said and done.
sure.
How, if I don't get too personal, how did this accident impact you?
Well, initially it was just,
Has it had a lasting effect on you?
it has. Initially there was a lot of, I want to say guilt, but I don't know that it was that, but it was feeling responsible, you know, for what had happened. I really, to be honest with you, kind of dreaded for your family to get there. Excuse me. But they were so supportive, so helpful in that regard. Your mother, your brothers, Cletus especially, they were like, that was one of the first things they did. They said, look, you're not responsible for this. We don't think that. Don doesn't think that. It was, that initially that was it. It took a while really to get over that. You know, I was constantly in prayer that night. Whenever you would take a nap, I'd pray. And it affected that part of it. But, you know, it's like Glenn Colley, for example. Glenn called me in I guess, the week following. And I guess word had gotten out. People could see, you know, how it was affecting me. And Glenn called and he said, hey, he said, if Cindy and I had been there and you had asked us to go ride on four-wheelers, we'd have done the same thing, you know. And he said, those things happen. It's not your fault. He said, I know Don. I know he's not going to blame you for it. So it took a while, really, you know, to get over that point. But then we became more careful with a lot of things, you know. But it's it's helped my prayer life, to be honest with you.
We never blamed you. My family counted you as the guy who was there for us.
Well, and I know that's what they said, and you know, it took some convincing, but they finally convinced me that was the case.
I blame myself a lot. I understand. I blame myself for what happened. I blame myself. A lot of people don't realize, of course, that Sherry had injuries. She still suffers a lot of pain, difficulty, in some ways more than me, because if I could feel it, I probably have a lot of pain that from a broken body, but I don't feel a lot of it. She does, and I blame myself for that because I was driving. I had a kind of a flash of memory recently that I think it hit me. I think I know what happened. I think that I hit something it left the ground a little bit, and I panicked and I squeezed the brakes. And I think when I hit the brakes, or when I hit the ground, I had the brakes locked up. And I think I tumbled and it hit me, and it was just a moment of terror when I realized it, because I thought, I did that. I caused that to happen. And so I've had a lot of guilt from that, but I've realized you can't change the past. There's nothing I can do about it. I've got to make the best of what I've got. Everybody deals with things that life throws at them. I don't know that I've had a day since then that I have not thought that I will, if I could go back. I think that sort of thing all the time, but it's not the way life works. So.
Well, that's true. There were insurance adjusters and, you know, investigators and all that came out, and so a lot of them gave their thoughts and opinions on what had happened. There was a trail that was mowed out. It was a hayfield trail that was mowed out in it, and we were on the trail, and we noticed where, and Sherry had said, your hat blew off, and you look back to see what happened to your hat, and there was a place in the hay where you had obviously left the trail, which wasn't a big deal, but you know, we thought maybe in that moment you overcompensated or something to try to get back on the mowed path. So, you know, it was a lot of questions without answers as to what really happened.
I can remember afterwards, we were thinking about all the bills we had to pay. What do you do? And so we talked to a lawyer, and he said, well, let's see if there's something wrong with the four-wheeler. So they investigated it, and they said there's nothing wrong with the four-wheeler. And then they said, well, the only way you can do this is you could sue the insurance company, but you have to sue Eddy. And I said, I'm not going to sue Eddy. I said, he hasn't done anything wrong. It'd be a violation of 1 Corinthians 6, so I'm not going to do that. And the lawyer kind of got frustrated with me. And he went on, and I said, the Lord will take care of us. We'll be okay, but I'm not going that route.
Well, you and I talked about that some too, and I said, you know, if you're suing me, you're suing the insurance company. It's not really me.
Right.
And I was hoping that our insurance in some fashion would, you know, admit to something.
Yeah.
But it never worked out like that.
Yeah, I just couldn't do it, and it's been okay. In good conscience, I couldn't do that, and it would imply that I blamed you in some way, and that wasn't the case. But the Brotherhood has stepped up and taken care of us, and thankfully I had insurance, and the insurance was pretty good. They fought me on some things, like the was it the helicopter flight or something? They really fought me about paying for that. But eventually we got it all settled. And well, it was obviously a life-changing experience. We have felt a special kinship to you and Jeannie in a special and a positive way. And don't hold any blame. When you go through something tragic with someone, you forever feel united or bonded in that way. And I've tried not to ask you too many questions because I know it's been hard for you, but I've wondered, and I want to recreate it in my mind. Sherry thinks no, you don't. She said I was awake, you don't. But it was one of the major events in my whole life, and I have no memory of it. And I want to know.
Well, and that was, you know, I didn't realize that you wanted to know that much, you know, and you probably don't remember, but on the anniversary, May the 6th, the first anniversary, I sent you a text, and I said, I'm thinking about you today. I know it's probably on your mind. And you sent back a text and said, I really haven't thought about it. I didn't remember it was May the 6th.
Hey, thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, I know. And I thought, oh man, I brought up something I shouldn't have brought up. So I've been kind of hesitant.
Yeah.
But, you know, anytime I can be of assistance to you or anyone else with it, I'll be glad to do it. It's an emotional thing, but if it helps, just let me know.
The one thing I have learned is going through something like this it's helped a lot of people. And I've told the story, I do it in most gospel meetings and do a sermon about it. And Sherry hates it. She says, why do you always have to do that? And I said, because we've gotten so much hurt from it, but there's good that comes from it. Let's get the good from it. And people always come and say, that helped me. It's benefited me. And I've had people all over the country who have dealt with accidents and diseases and cancer, and they've said that they've been benefited to go on and push forward. And they've said, if you can do it, we can do it. And so it makes me want to use it in a beneficial way. And so for that reason, I keep doing it. And that's why I had the idea of doing this. And at least most of Truth on Wheels is teaching, but I try to do a coping segment. I probably get more feedback on the coping segments than anything else because it touches so many people.
Yeah, that's where people live.
Well, do you have any parting thoughts?
Well, I remember too, and this to your credit, you were working with a man at South Haven at the time that was addicted to drugs. And you called him, I think on Wednesday maybe, after the surgery, and told him that you told him you didn't want the drugs that would help you cope with the pain because you'd be addicted to them. And he was going through the addiction. You may not remember who it was. I didn't know him, of course, but I thought then, man, already you're starting to try to heal people and help people.
I remember it.
So
I do.
Anyway, but I'm an emotional person anyway. I was very emotional. You weren't. Jeannie called me during the night Monday night, and she said, "Well, how's he doing?" I said, "He's doing great, but it's really affected me." And she told Sherry, she said, "Well, Don's laying there, hasn't shed a tear, and Eddie hasn't quit crying." And Sherry said, "Well, that's my man." And Jeannie said, "That's my man." So, different personalities, you handle things a different way. But you were just, I got a lot of strength from you, and I appreciate that.
I appreciate it. I think it took some time for it to set in on me because I've shed a lot of tears, and that's not my nature. But in a lot of ways, it's changed me. Probably in a lot of ways, it's softened me, and probably in some ways, it's toughened me. But thank you for being there for me, for your love and concern, prayers, fundraising. You and Jeannie have a special place in our heart and in the hearts of my family. My family lights up when I say your name in a very positive way. So,
Well, that's good to know. And
thank
do
you,
in
brother.
ours. Yes, sir.
Love you.
Thank you. Love you.
Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of Truth on Wheels. Until next time, stay faithful.